goodness, it's that time again, isn't it?
It is, Jordan.
We both made it we're actually in the Light Spark Commissary in Lightfall, or in Light... Already fucked up. Yeah, well, I'm gonna be great at live, he says. I guess just leave it in, right? Light Spark Commissary in Hallowfall. So we're in Light Spark. It's I wanted to come back to Hallowfall because it's a very gorgeous area. Except it gets purple sometimes, but... Very pretty. We have caretaker Eric Ryston taking care of us tonight. He's a little bit too nice for his own good, if you can hear me over there. But he's a real bro.
It's easier than last week's name, but still not as easy as Bob the bartender.
Oh, I miss... Dude, Bartender Bob was a bro. But they have some students here, so it's interesting. They're a little bit more careful with handing drinks out here, which I think is interesting.
Well, you can learn how to, command an airship if you want to. Just go talk to one.
All right, so Nick, what do we have for our beautiful, gorgeous listeners this week?
So this week we have a lot of articles to cover. We are going to continue going over the WoW 20th anniversary. When you hear this, it will be live. So go ahead, get out there and do it. It's supposed to be fantastic, but we're still going to cover it because there's still about 3 or 4 articles we got to go over. We also have the discussion that Jordan wanted to touch on about the 12-month sub bundle and new Twitch drops coming out. We're also going to hit on the Silken Court nerfed on the NA and EU servers, and the Corway and Azeroth's World Soul Weekly Archive quest story. There are spoilers on that, so fair warning. And then we're going to cover our week, and then we got some amazing discussions about Tavern Talk. We are going to hit up that sub bundles as well, see what we both think about what they're doing. We're going to talk about DPS rankings and some Drakthir stuff, because Jordan has been... got some fun, spicy opinions on it. And then we're also, for the first time, we're going to talk about some of the comments you guys left. Not in a negative thing. We're going to talk about and discuss them instead of, just commenting on it. We figured we'd make you guys a part of Tavern Talk.
Yeah, and we definitely wanted to touch on this. There's a lot of really, really good takes in the comments. I really appreciate your guys' engagement and feedback. We're ecstatic, and so we wanted to do a little bit. We're going to put it in the Tavern Talk. It's going to be news. But we wanted to make sure that we definitely started talking about comments because there's some really good ones. Thank you, guys.
Jordan, why don't you start us off with this week and tell us what you ended up doing?
Well, I actually, as far as relevant postseason, as far as relevant post-game content, I didn't do nothing.
No.
What I ended up doing was I took a chill week. I didn't actually have a whole lot of time. I've been saying that the last couple of weeks, but believe it or not, this week I have lots of time. So I'll be getting into it. I only really we had one of our newer guildies wanted a couple of transmogs, so we went through a couple of old raids, that's really all I did. So Nick, what did you get up to this week?
I'm pretty much in the same boat. Didn't do a ton. I did more focusing on gearing the prop pally, and she's sitting below about 580 still, so still got a ways to go with it. Did end up doing some delves on both the prot and the rat pally. Other than that, I honestly didn't have time for much because you and I have been working on some other stuff that we're going to keep secret for now. But we got some work we're doing some fun things in the background for you guys.
Yeah, we're definitely taking this seriously. So we're working on a lot of back end, definitely, to make sure we can bring this to you better and better every week.
Yep. Jordan, why don't you tell us what the guild got up to this week?
Well, actually, I talked in the last episode we were going to take a week off, and we ended up taking a week off here. But this is the week where we're getting back into doing normal and heroic runs, and I have a small little crew I think we'll be bringing around. So this next week, I would expect to have more to talk about here. But me and the guild did talk about taking another week off. So, Nick, we were going to talk a little bit about the 20th anniversary. You want to get started with that?
Yeah, definitely. So Blizzard did launch a video recently that has pretty much all the information that we've talked about the last couple weeks on it. So instead of digging through all of our stuff, feel free to check out that video. All the links for all these are, again, always in the description. So check it out. But some big things we did want to talk about with the 11.0.5 update coming out with the 20th anniversary are the dungeon and raid fixes that are going on. So for Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands raid encounters have had mechanics adjusted, so they're now possible to complete in solo, which is actually pretty kick-ass. I think it is. Time-walking dungeons now use the same scaling system as Chromie Time, and will now scale enemies to your current level as opposed to scaling them to the level of the dungeon. Also awesome.
And I almost wanted to make this a Tavern Talk topic.
Yeah.
But the truth is, we got to feel this out. It'll be interesting because that'll be the most direct comparison of the change we'll see. So I'm excited to experience it.
Yes. Non-end dungeon bosses, so those that you aren't killing at the end, will now drop 10 Time Warp badges, and end dungeons will drop 20. So we're getting, I think it's like double, isn't it? Because isn't it 5 and 10 right now?
Yeah,
So
and
that's awesome.
more badges, more transmogs, baby.
Yeah. And we are also going to get an increase as well on non-end raid bosses and end raid bosses. So see the same thing. The non-end will drop 20 and the end raid bosses will drop 50.
Very exciting.
Oh, it's great. It's going to be so good. So many time warp badges.
No, and the truth is, time walking dungeons are like technically easier to get into, but just running one time walking raid is like you can clean up that quest in one raid.
Oh,
you
yeah.
get better gear. You get a ton of time walking tokens. So definitely check out doing the raid if you're interested and have the time to do something like that, for sure.
Jordan, I think you also had some stuff going on with the 20th you wanted to talk about?
Yes. There is an enormous, absolutely enormous amount of class changes. And we are not necessarily going to cover any of that because even some of the classes I play at this time, I don't necessarily understand how it's going to feel because it's so many changes. So we'll see kind of... I want to play with that a little more. I don't want to say anything one way or the other. If you want to read what they did to your class, because they did something to every class, every hero tree, definitely take a look and read through the patch notes. They'll be linked in the description. But one of the bigger topics that's coming out is Drakthir will be able to be other classes starting with this patch. So you can be, as a Drakthir, starting with this patch, a hunter, rogue, priest, mage, warrior, or warlock. So you can either race change, you can make a new one. That's pretty interesting, and a lot of people are actually really excited about that. I'm going to talk a little bit in the tavern talk about this, a little bit about how I feel, but the truth is the community really likes it, and I guess I'm excited for everybody to enjoy it. That's pretty cool. They also are fixing things for the classes, so if you're the kind of person who wants to be a warrior that can have a bunch of CC and movement, then that's not how it works. They do have a list of how they change the cooldowns for the other classes and how it makes Evoker still kind of relevant and, a specialty with their abilities. Which I'll go more into that in the Tavern Talk, but they do break that down pretty well in the article we'll have in the description. And so there's only a couple of item changes I wanted to talk to. They are fixing some quality of life stuff, like non-cosmetic class restricted gear can now have its appearance collected by other classes. This change will be retroactive to any gear currently in your bank or inventory. So they did a bunch of changes like that with items. They did a bunch of player versus player changes specifically to classes. And then I thought this was kind of interesting. They changed some stuff for some accessibility stuff, and they fixed in the character select screen. On the Warband character list, on the character select screen will remain collapsed or expanded. The search field for the character list now supports searching by realm name and specialization name. So the list goes on. They're learning that having a long list of all your characters everywhere maybe isn't the move. They're finding better ways to organize it, which is sweet. They're really working on the UI, which is something we're going to talk about in our add-on in the Tavern Talk as well. We go a little bit more into... We're going to talk about the UI some more, for sure. And then the Warband Bank, they fixed some stuff as well, where the deposit all items now works properly and actually picks up all the items that are warbound and doesn't just leave some in there. So they're continuing to make... I know. So they're continuing to make optimization changes. But yeah, definitely take a look. There's a ton of changes. They changed the currency pane. They changed how you transfer things in between characters again. So lots of stuff to cover in there. That's just kind of the important stuff I wanted to go over. But we also have an event that's coming out in this 20th anniversary. And Nick, would you bring us through a little bit what that's going to be like?
Yeah, definitely. So this really cool event they're doing, which they've kind of done before, is the Fashion Frenzy event. And anyone's able to participate in it. Don't worry if you do not have a transmog mount. There are people to do the transmog stuff there. But what you're able to do is you're going to get 2 minutes. They're going to give you a theme. You get 2 minutes to make a transmog up. People go vote on it. And the winners, they have their transmog displayed for, I think it's up to an hour on this main stage. So you can show people what you got when it comes to transmogging and see if you can't have your stuff on show. There are 2 achievements you can also pick up during this event that do wrap into another achievement that's available called A Cool 20 Years, which if you get that, which is all about the 20th anniversary, you are going to get awarded the Reigns of the Cloud Flame Tempest mount, which looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, I remember the last time I tried to describe a mount on this channel, and we'll try it again.
Yes. Yeah, I want to hear the description, and we'll put the picture up.
So it's kind of like a blue frost bird with armor. It's kind of what it is. So if you're into frost stuff or blue, or you could swing it for a mage thing probably. But if you're into stuff like that, definitely take a look. I think I'm getting it. Let me put it that way. I always do a terrible job. I just won't do that anymore. We're just going to tell them to look it up. So it's Reigns of the Cold Flame Tempest.
Oh, we'll still put a picture up. Let us know in the comments if Jordan's description was accurate.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, please let me know. Oh my gosh, I'm sure it was great. Yeah, I'm sure the listeners on Spotify now a perfect example of what I'm talking about.
Jordan, I believe you wanted to talk about this 12-month sub bundle that's going on and the new Twitch drops we have going on.
I'll gloss over this. We are going to talk about a little bit more of how we feel about the 12-month sub bundle and things like that. But the cat mount, so just for a disclaimer, I am a 12th-month subber. So I'm pretty excited to get the wizard cat mount with Frosty Paws. I'm pretty excited for it. So that was a better description. Definitely take a look at a link we'll have in the description of what the 12-month sub bundle will be. Obviously, I mean, it's a little bit, if you're going to play the game all year, then it's a good move. If you're not, don't do it. But there's also a couple of Hallows End Sales, they say. So you'll be able to get 50% off on transmogs and toys, which is kind of interesting. Now, we're talking only specifically in the Battle.net shop. So things like the Murloc onesie, you know, the Mage transmog, tons of things like that are half off during Hallows End. And so if you were on the fence about buying it, but you think it's a little bit too much, it's going to be half price here coming up. So just some things to keep in mind. Check out the shop once Hallows End starts. It does not last until Hallows End ends. It stops on October 31st. So make sure you capitalize on that before Halloween.
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
that's...
So they do have a Twitch drop coming on October 22nd. You'll be able to get it from the 22nd to November 5th. And it is called a sand scarab. It is easily mistaken for a common beetle, but the sting of a sand scarab will quickly clear up the misconception, and you should be unlucky enough to be stung by one.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's just golden scarab. Twitch drops are normally great for the guys who actually watch WoW on Twitch. They're normally pretty easy. But if you don't, ready for elite hack, what you do is...
A pro gamer move?
What you do is you can't just mute the stream because that doesn't count. You have to at least be listening to it in order to count as viewing it. So what you do is... You open up a tab on your Chrome, and then you put up a World of Warcraft streamer, and then you mute the tab with Chrome, or with your Firefox, or with whatever browser you're using. A pro tip, just so you know. Takes a lot less effort to just get this free stuff.
Jordan, that is a really good tip. I know you and I have talked about that, and we kind of did that the last time they did one of these Twitch drops, and it was a lot easier to get it. But I believe you also wanted to talk about something in the Mythic Silken Court that we had mentioned earlier.
Yes, so they nerfed Silken Court, and I guess I'm going to read this Wowhead article kind of verbatim, and I'm not going to touch on it from there. While some guilds intentionally exploited the Mythic Silken Court, other guilds had a non-exploited but bugged kill of Mythic Silken Court within the last 24 hours, due to not the fault of the players. This has likely forced Blizzard hand into nerfing Mythic Silken Court. So here are the changes. Burning Rage and Void Degradation can now stack up to 4, was 3. Before triggering the death mechanic. Mode of Unrelenting Rage and Mode of Overwrought Paranoia now detonate after 20 seconds, was 15 seconds. Spike Storm will no longer fail to cast and trivialize the encounter if he was too close to the middle. So that last one's the important one there. They did nerf the Void Degradation, which means if your group makes mistakes, they can make 1 more or 2 more than they did before. Paranoia, now having 20 seconds instead of 15, gives players a bit more time, and I think a bit more reasonable amount of time to react to it. Now, the Spike Storm will no longer fail to cast and trivialize the encounter. So what that means is Blizzard had an ability that just straight up didn't work, and then it was super easy for them to complete the fight. Now, there were some groups that made this situation happen on purpose, and there are some who didn't. And so that's why this is interesting. Turns out they're just nerfing the encounter and fixing it. Be that what it is. We're going to talk a little bit more about the balancing here coming up. And this is going to be one of the topics I'll bring up. But just wanted to make sure that was clear and why I wanted to include it. Pretty interesting news there. And that's not all out yet, so I guess we'll see who talks about that here coming up. And so I just wanted to lightly dance over this because there are spoilers. We're going to include a link. It'll say spoilers in the link in the description. But they did update the Coreway and the Azeroth World Soul quests. And so they are slowly progressing the story week by week. This is something we talked about in the past. You're supposed to not just do it all at once. You're supposed to experience it over a period of time. And they kind of want that. So if you're into the lore and you're really feeling how we're going to get from spiders to the next stage, whatever it is, then I think it's definitely worth checking out and doing the quests. And if you do want to be spoiler, definitely click on the link.
Yeah, if you don't care, go for it.
So, Nick, actually, you are the spooky legend, and we actually have a spooky episode coming up that you wrote for sure.
We do, yeah.
And so would you tell us a little bit about what we can come to expect from Hallows End?
Definitely. It is one of my favorite holidays that we do here in Azeroth. But and also on top of it, Blizzard did just post discounts for some in-game store on transmog collections and toys in celebration of Hallows End. So check those out too if there's something you want to pick up from the store. Hallows End starts on October 25th and is going to go until November 8th. So you have a decent amount of time to get some of this stuff. Notably, which is the only time you can get it, and it is a cool mount, is the Headless Horseman mount. So run that dungeon. If I remember right, last year when I did get it to drop, there are little onesie-twosie things you can do to bump that percentage up. I don't remember what it was, I'm going to be honest, mainly because I just data dumped it after I got it.
So you used to be able to do multiple rolls on multiple characters. What they did instead is they increased the drop rate of these holiday things, but you can only do it once on one character across your account.
That's a pain in the ass.
It is. I think it's more fair to the guys who don't play 50 characters like me.
You do play 50 characters.
Yeah, I know.
But as Jordan mentioned earlier, we are going to do a really cool Ookie Spooky episode, and that's going to be the lore of the Headless Horseman, which I've kind of gone and wrote a little script, and we're just going to sit down and chit-chat about it. But that episode's going to be only on our YouTube channel. As we always close it out, there is additional content that we only have on the YouTube channel. But with that being said, that pretty much wraps it up for Hallows End. It's a fun, cool event. You go trick-or-treating at different taverns. There's a lot of fun and little achievements you can get, and you can always try for the Headless Horseman mount, which is awesome. Plus, I actually really enjoy the riddles that he does. Pretty cool.
No, it's cool. I didn't even want to say this. I'm not the biggest spooky season guy, and I know there's going to be pitchforks and there's going to be fires in the chat. I know. No, it is. If you are spooky, like Blizzard does it pretty good. So
yeah. Well, it's just so well done. I've always enjoyed any holiday event when they change up the way the taverns are done or the world looks.
So the Headless Horseman story is brutal. So that's what I like about it. The Headless Horseman story is pretty cool.
Oh, I think it's fantastic. It's a real cool thing from a guy that is at one spectrum being on like the holiest of holies and just descent into madness and then becomes the Headless Horseman. It's awesome. But anyway, enough about Hallows End. Jordan, will you wrap us into what we have coming up this week, since we are already talking about holidays this week?
You know, that small little patch that's coming out soon is behind us now. So now let's talk about the real stuff. So we do have an Arena Skirmish bonus event this week, and we have the PvP Brawl Deep 6 this week. The Packed House is over, and the Dungeon event is over. So the Arena Skirmish event is you get bonus honor from doing Arena Skirmishes. I actually like this. I like skirmies, because they're really casual arenas, and I like arenas. There's some problems with skirmies. We're not going to get into that here, though, but I like them. The Deep 6, it pits a team of 6 players against each other in 3 iconic battlegrounds. So they do adjust some of the things, like how many carts there are, and things like that on some of the battlegrounds, but it's essentially just a battleground with half as many, with only 6 instead of 10. So it's interesting. If you like small little skirmishes, little mini random arenas in battlegrounds, then it's actually sounds pretty cool. I don't know if I'm going to quite step into it this week or not, but I'm going to be spending more time with the skirmies for sure for my small engages. But Nick, I believe that brings us to the end of the news. Remember, guys, if you think we should have added anything or you wanted us to talk about something in the next episode that we forgot about, definitely leave it in the comments below. We definitely want to know. But Nick, would you send us out?
Can send us out. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of the Valley of Spirits. We're your hosts, Jordan and Nick, your go-to Horde players. Join us in Dornegal on the Mal'Ganis server and look up our guild, the Electric Boogaloo, for some epic adventures. Our Discord is in the description. Feel free to come out and hang out too. You don't have to join the guild. Stay connected with us on social media. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or X as it is known these days, by searching the Valley of Spirits podcast. Don't miss an episode and follow us on Spotify or anywhere you find your podcast. Check out our YouTube for additional content not found on our podcast platforms, like our lore episodes that we sometimes drop. Until next time, may your quest be glorious and your loot be ever plentiful. And as always, for the Horde!